Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Bradley, CEO of Players Network, Greenleaf Farms International, and is a visionary and entrepreneur. In 2018, he envisioned the enormous profitability of cannabis as a commodity, free from crushing U.S. subjugation. By 2019, Mr. Bradley signed a partnership agreement with the government of Jujuy, Argentina, making that vision reality. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
The stage is yours, sir.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the end of October Money Show here, virtual. Hopefully everyone is getting adapted to this new way of doing business in life. I want to talk to you about the cannabis industry and invest in the cannabis industry. Greenleaf Farms has a lot of experience in being in the Las Vegas market and the internet and the California market, and we really understand the challenges of being in the U.S. The problem is it's overregulated, it's overtaxed, and there's so many hurdles that you have to go through that just making regular business, just operating is enough on its own, let alone all these hurdles. So a lot of investors have lost money, millions of dollars in the North American cannabis industry. So we started looking at where are the next markets and how can we be first into those markets and actually make a difference not only for the investors, but make a difference for an economic growth of the countries that we go into. So our focus has really been South America. And I want to really, in my presentation, kind of give you an analogy and an example of how things run in the US and how things are running in South America and where the opportunity lies in our offering at Greenleaf. So without any, I'm going to go scroll here. I got a PowerPoint, not a PowerPoint, I have a PDF. A little bit about Greenleaf Farms International. We're a holding company, so we're investing into our first operation was mentioned to you, Jujuy, Argentina, but we also have other areas that we're looking into. Real focus is to, be in emerging markets and really focus on economic growth of countries. Job creation, is our number one, as well as investor return. It really isn't to pay taxes and have all this bureaucratic overhang that we get here in the US. So a little bit about South America. I'm going to zoom this in a touch here. Hopefully you can see the screen here. A little bit of South America, 430 million people are here. There's only 10 legalized commercial cannabis growers right now. We're the only one in Argentina. There's a few in Uruguay, and there's some in Colombia. When you compare that to the US and North America, US and Canada, you have about 350 million people total, and you have over 9,000 cultivators alone. So when you think about 10 cultivators for 430 million people compared to 9,000 for 350 million, you can see that the opportunity to be first to the market here is really an advantage. Right now in South America, you have legalized, as Uruguay is the only one that's fully legalized, where you can buy cannabis. Colombia you can grow in, and Argentina we're the only grower. Brazil's legalizing it, not for cultivation, but only for medical distribution next year. A little bit about our company. Our initial project is in Jujuy, Argentina. That's me shaking hands with the Governor Morales of Jujuy. Jujuy is the northernmost province of Argentina. We have a 30-year contract. It's a joint venture with the government. Really an unprecedented deal that allows us to do manufacturing, allows us to export, create cannabis oils, isolate, distillates. Really our focus is to be the largest producer of raw materials in the world and supply it to the existing brands, whether it's Coca-Cola that's getting into a CBD drink or a pharmaceutical company that is trying to create their next new medical-based drug. A little bit about the advantages of being in a global market and being in South America. We don't have any land costs or mortgage costs. We negotiated free land. The growing conditions are absolutely beautiful all year round. We don't have any license fees. We have no regulatory fees, nor do we have any taxes based on the deals we negotiated. The land is absolutely beautiful. We have no water cost. We have no power costs. We have no security costs. These are some of the most expensive costs when you are growing cannabis. Water, power, and security, and of course, taxes are enormous. Our labor cost is low. In South America, our average labor cost is $20 a day for a experienced agricultural grower. I mean, you have to realize that a lot of the areas that we're in, this is what people do. They've been in agriculture all their life. We also have the freedom to extract and process all genetics. Many parts of the world, you can see in the US, you can only do a small amount of THC, for example, without and you can't really export it anymore. You have to keep it within the local jurisdiction. We can export it anywhere we want. The government granted us land in the tax-free zone. That's we're going to create manufacturing and production. So imagine having a country within a country and the ability to ship our product around the world without it paying any taxes. So these are some really big advantages that we have opposed to anywhere else in the world right now that I know of today. How we make money, we grow biomass. I'm not sure if my video, if it's being covered up here. We grow biomass, we cultivate it, we harvest it, we dry it, we extract the compounds, and then we sell these compounds, for profit. And we can do customized compounds depending on what anybody wants us to do. If someone wants a particular type of strain, we can grow that strain. We can create it into that compound, whether that's an isolate, a distillate, a shatter, a wax. We can, whatever the company requires, we can create a compound. I want to talk about supply chain. This is very, very important. If you're going to make money in any business, you have to have your end buyer. Greenleaf Farms recently signed a deal with a company called SD Biosciences. SD Biosciences is located in 31 countries. They're a massive distribution chain. They already have import-export expertise to ship product all around the world. They just recently made a $1.2 million investment into our company, and they're also agreed to buy up to 50% of everything that we grow, which means we already have a supply chain. They would like 100%, but we don't want to give them 100%. We'd like to just, to some of our product other as well. So have a distributor, an end user who's going to purchase your product ahead of time. It's a pretty big commitment. I don't really know any other cannabis companies in the US or North America that's accomplished that. This is more an important page I really want to focus in on. I want to give you an example of the cost compared to return on investment. In North America, I'm going to make an assumption that we do $5 million in revenue. And let's say we do 5 million in Argentina. If you take a look at the cost, we have a mortgage cost. At least % of that 5 million is going to go to mortgage or land. 500,000. At least 300,000 is going to go toward water, electricity. At least 750,000 toward labor, equipment, supply, security. I mean, we'd have an operating cost of $2 million off of a North American operation. The same operation in Argentina, our operating cost would be 750,000 because the largest expenses is the water you don't have. When you talk about taxes and licensing fees in the US, and this is why you don't see North American companies making a profit for their investors. 30% of the gross tax goes to the government. It's federally legal, but the government still takes their money. It's as high as 35% and as low as 25%, depending on what kind of license you have, but 30% is the average. In Nevada, it's 15% gross sales tax, and that's where it is in most states. There's at least a 5% local tax, a local jurisdiction where you're on. And then you're also paying a big compliance fee every year to pay the government to maintain licenses and different things like that. So you're talking about out of the $5 million, $2,650,000 goes toward your expenses. That we have in South America, we're sharing 30% of our net profit with the government. So the difference between what I'm talking to you about is the government wants to succeed. They want you to make money. They want you to create jobs because if you win, they win. It's the opposite of the US. That's why the US investors are not making money in the cannabis space in North America. The bottom line is, based on this example of cultivation only, is net profit would be $350,000, roughly 7% on the same $5 million revenue in North America, compared to almost $3 million net profit for the same 5 million in South America. That's what we're doing at Greenleaf Farms, and that is what is going to make this opportunity I'm telling you about so exciting here. Give you a little example. Initial project is 86 acres, but we are going to ramp up over the next few years to a minimum of 400 acres. So I wanted to give you the 400 acres example because it is more realistic. I'm projecting right now to do net profit over a 3-year period, about $284 million net profit. Even in year one, $22 million net profit. When you take a look at the largest cannabis operations in North America, all the companies are listed on the New York or NASDAQ stock exchange or the Toronto. Nobody's making this kind of money. And they're going through hundreds of millions of dollars well, I shouldn't say no one's making this kind of profit. They may be doing $1 billion of revenue to show this kind of profit that we can generate for much less revenue. It's a lot less riskier than we're doing here. In addition to 6 acres, in our existing contract with Hui, we have 1,250 acres. We can immediately expand. Give you a 400-acre example on the revenue, but show you we already have this. We're getting partnerships and pre-orders with large commodity companies purchasing it for anything from biofuel to paper to want to create pharmaceutical products. There's a lot of uses for the cannabis. ST Biosciences, I gave you an example first, a company ordering product from us. Our next phase, we're going to be expanding, as I mentioned, in this tax-free zone. That's going to be production and manufacturing. Right now, we're just growing, but the next phase is production and manufacturing, which is only 4 miles from our existing farm. Number 4 is a big one. Realizing the government affiliations to help our sales. So realize government being our partner, of course, the government has relationships and influence on other companies that operate within their country, pharmaceutical companies, as well as other relationship with importing and exporting their trade agreements. We're also looking to acquire distribution rights for other areas in South America. We're currently working on Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and other South American countries. We do have some preliminary negotiations right now. I wouldn't be mentioning these if we didn't already have solid relationships and be working on something, but these aren't quite ready to announce yet. But anybody that gets involved in Greenleaf Farms International, it's a holding company. They get a piece of everything that we're doing. Number 6, basically, we're going to be replicating in the country mentioned in number 5, production, cultivation, and manufacturing. This is a high level presentation. We have a investor deck. We have a complete business plan. We have a financial plan. We have all these tools available for any interested investors to read and be able to ask us questions and see about what we're doing and understand what went wrong in the US and why this is different. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about offering here. We have a private offering right now. Currently, we're going to raise $10 million. We don't even need that much right now in this phase, but it never hurts as a growing company to get extra. Currently, there's 12 million outstanding shares in the company. We're keeping it really small and tight. Post offering, there'll be 14 million shares. We're offering units right now. We're selling 200 units at $50,000 a unit. If 50,000 is too much for an investor, they want to buy a half unit, they could invest 25,000. Each unit consists of two things, some preferred stock and common stock. The preferred stock is very interesting because what we've done is we've created a redemption. So out of our first revenue that's coming into the company, we're going to distribute that to these investors that come in with this founders round. And it really isn't our first round. It really is our third round, but we're going to actually be giving this round first money out. So we're giving 180% redemption. So if someone hypothetically invests $100,000 out of the first revenue profits that come, I shouldn't say revenue, the profits that come in to the entity, those profits will be distributed first to the buy units until they receive their 100,000 back plus an $80,000 profit. So if it takes 2 years, that would be like getting 40,000, 40% a year on your money. In addition to the preferred, we don't want to just say, okay, we gave you preferred, thank you very much, and we paid you back, now we're going to make a bunch of money. We're also going to give you common shares, 4,500 common shares for every unit that somebody buys. Our plan is to eventually list this on the national exchange, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ. One of the main reasons why you don't see any U.S. companies on U.S. exchanges is because it's federally illegal. However, you see Canadian companies on U.S. exchanges trading in the billions of dollars of market cap without even a fraction of the profits that we're showing here that we have the potential to make here. This is all being done through a 506B offer through accredited investors. So we are only accepting money from accredited investors, and that's up to you to let us know you're accredited. This broker, which would be a 506C, but my presentation right now, I know there's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I'm opening it up for some questions here. I'm going to go to my any questions.
Mark. Thank you. There are no questions in the chat room at this time.
Okay. What I'd like to just mention then, what most people are interested in, and they do have questions, is really what makes this different. And I kind of explained that a little bit, but really what made this project different is the ability to grow a business in a loosely regulated environment. When you talk about 12 months growing conditions, beautiful crops, talking about 4 to 5 crops a year in the US, where you're talking about maybe one here in California too. When you combine the low labor cost, when you combine the no taxes, the free power, the free security, and the free land, really gives us a competitive edge. And you have to kind of look at the cannabis industry as being a commodity. And I want to keep in that over and over again, that is a commodity. And, eventually whoever can produce the lowest, the highest quality product at the lowest price is going to end up being the winners here. So unless there's no more questions, we'll...
Yes, I do actually. I've had a few come in.
Okay.
Any concerns with stability of economy or politics in South America and Argentina?
Very, very good question. Just the opposite. I don't have any concerns because of the fact that Argentina is hurting so much right now economically. They're incentivizing people like us to come in, grow their economy. So when so there's all these incentives, like I said, free land, free water, free power, free security, and great growing conditions. So, but I will tell you, from an investor protection standpoint, we're not banking in Argentina. We're paying our bills in Argentina, paying our staff, but all the money stays in the U.S. So we don't have to worry, and all the sales are affected in the U.S. as well.
All right. So is what is the government's cut then, or required profit?
Well, I mentioned it a little earlier in my thing. So we're providing 30% of our net profit to the government, and I'm going to compare that to 54% in the US, 54% of your gross profit opposed to 30% of your net profit. So it's quite a remarkable deal when you think of it in those terms.
All right, great. And Mark, there are no other questions. Did you want to go ahead and you have a slide there with contact information that you'd like to provide?
I do not have a slide that has a contact information. What I would
Okay, well,
like
I,
to
I
do
can
is,
tell you that you do have it. We, of course, have it in your virtual booth here. So people
sure.
can find your contact information in the upper right-hand portion of your booth here under the company details section.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody is free to anytime to uh, call. You can reach me directly. I answer any calls that any potential investors are interested in. Um, and as far as email, I'll give you an email if you'd like to put it down, which is Mark, like in Bradley, Vegas at gmail.com is a good email that goes directly to me. That's Mark with a K, B, Vegas at gmail.com. And there's also, we have representatives, Dave Kleppinger or David Barry, that also can return any calls or questions. We'll be more than happy to email you investor deck and presentation, full on detailed financials for you to look at and examine the opportunity.
That's fantastic, Mark. And I'll also remind them that they can find that investor deck and the link off to this project
Thank you.
just below actually this webinar too in your booth. So lots of information available to them.
I appreciate everybody. If you're interested in the cannabis, I don't think you'll find too many opportunities in the world like this, but I appreciate your time and have a good rest of the money show.
Great, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.